The BS Podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek, our presenting sponsor since 1962. Find the best tickets for sports, music, wrestling, opera, whatever you want. I have SeatGeek on my phone. It's by far the easiest way to shop for the best tickets thanks to their revolutionary grading system. I would highly recommend SeatGeek if you're trying to steal some last-minute NBA or NHL playoff tickets, because I feel like people are getting better and better at stealing those last-minute bargains. SeatGeek is the place to do that. Buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps on your phone. Everything fully guaranteed. Try it out. Download the SeatGeek app today or go right to SeatGeek.com. We're also brought to you by my old friend, SimpliSafe. In the past, you couldn't order home security online, but now with SimpliSafe Home Security, it's a snap to do it. They make it easier than ever to protect your home and your family. It takes less than an hour to set up your system and protect your home. Even better, no long-term contracts. 24/7 professional protection service for just $15 a month. Go to simplysafebs.com today to protect your home and get 10% off. That's SimpliSafe with 2 I's. BS.com. And finally, we are brought to you by the Ringer NBA Show. That's our NBA podcast hosted by Chris Vernon. It's good. We got a lot of Ringer people and a whole bunch of other people that have been coming on there in the playoffs. We're going to ratchet it up. I am going on there later this week to break down the NBA playoffs with Chris Vernon. So if you want to hear me on a podcast talk about the NBA playoffs, it's going to happen on the Ringer NBA Show and not the BS Podcast. Just trust me. Just go over there. It'll be good. I'll have a lot of thoughts. I'll have some gambling tips, the whole thing. Ringer NBA Show. Download, subscribe, do the thing. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up, we have Joe House quickly it's Tuesday night when we're taping this, and I wanted to go over the MVP one more time with him. He's my sounding board. He goes in the muse cage with me, and we bounce stuff off each other. And then coming up after House, we have Neil Moritz, who was the producer from day one on the Fast and the Furious franchise. He's the only one left, other than I think the costume designer. But we go over the history of the franchise. Everything that worked, everything that didn't work, a lot of the stories about behind the scenes. And if you like the movies, I would highly recommend listening to this. If you love the movies, I will never forgive you if you don't listen to this. But Fast 8's coming out on Friday, and this is a worthy director's commentary on the entire series, even though he's the head producer, not the director. But anyway, coming up, Joe House, Neil Moritz, but first, Pearl Jam. All right, I want to call Joe House. It's Tuesday night East Coast time, and it's like 4:30 on the West Coast. Russell Westbrook is not playing tonight, so I don't have to worry about him dropping a 65, 22, and 28 to screw up my MVP decision. I'm still undecided, House. I've still not decided on my MVP. I have a column due this week. I have a ballot due, and I have not decided. All these other media members are coming out with their picks and stuff, and I want to see more. I almost need like a 95-game season. You were convinced when we talked the last time on the podcast that Harden was the MVP. Have you changed your mind?
I have not. I'm even more convinced now, and in fact, I feel a tweet storm brewing. I have some thoughts I need to get out. I'm not sure the right way. In addition to speaking with you, which is obviously always a pleasure, I need to get all of my thoughts out on this topic. The basic premise from which I'm coming from on this MVP decision is, if you're a person who subscribes to what I'll call NBA values, then it is a perversion of NBA values to reward Russell Westbrook with the MVP award for this season. If you vote for Russell Westbrook for MVP, that makes you a hoops pervert.
A hoops
and
pervert.
The reason
okay.
I say that, a hoops pervert.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because we have established certain parameters for what it means to be an MVP in this league, and Russell Westbrook does not reach any of the lofty standards that have been developed, tried and true measures for assessing outstanding performance. Now, having said all of those things, Russell Westbrook won this season. He made the regular season great again. He achieved an outstanding level of performance. He deserves all of the plaudits and the laudations and every single celebration that people want to so clearly heap upon him. He deserves it. He said, I'm going to go kick ass this season, and then he did it. And he showed up for every single game except for this game tonight, which he's certainly entitled to take a break at this point in the season. But here's the thing. I don't know if you saw any of this game in Phoenix. I watched the game in Phoenix. I watched nearly the entire thing. He shot 6 for 25 from the field. And the perversion that I'm speaking of is the fans in Phoenix booing their own team for denying Westbrook achieving his triple-double. Now, when we have that kind of reaction to I'm a great player, out there competing, and a home team, our values are askew. Something is amiss. And that confirmed to me, that performance confirmed to me, that while he deserves all the credit in the world for the wonderful achievements of the regular season, he is not an NBA MVP.
LeBron looks like he's only going to win 50 games. Is that enough?
No. Oh, well, wait a second. LeBron's a whole different case and a whole different story, and wins is not the measure for LeBron.
Well, I want to know what your threshold is for wins. Let's start there. What's the lowest amount of wins you would accept in an MVP season with worthy candidates?
50 for sure. Yeah, I have to have 50 wins to start the conversation. And on top of that, you tweeted this earlier. How much did the team exceed what it was expected to do? It was expected to do at the beginning of this season. I thought that was a very astute observation you put out there. I was going to give it 1 million likes. I still may do it on the Twitter about how much greater Houston outperformed their expected win total this season compared to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is exactly where they were forecasted to be, maybe a half game better. Houston's like 13 or 14 games better.
Right. Houston was 41.5. OKC was 45.5. Now, Vegas is wrong every once in a while with over-unders. They were wrong with Minnesota. There were some other ones that they got wrong. The reason I tweeted that out was because there's this perception now that Harden has a better supporting cast, when it's actually, I would argue that if you're going to draft the players from both teams, just like, I don't know, snake fashion or whatever, if both teams could start over, I think three of the four draft picks that go first would be from OKC. I think it would go Adams. All right, let's do it. Who's your first pick? You got Russell Westbrook and James Harden are splitting sides. They're playing pickup.
Okay.
And we're the captains. I'm giving you the first pick. Who do you take?
Steven Adams.
Okay. I think the second pick is Victor Oladipo, who's been kind of quietly pretty good this season. If you look at his stats and the eye test and everything, I think he'd have to be the second pick. Who's the third pick?
I'm very interested at some point in talking more about Oladipo and the effect of Russell's usage this season on Oladipo's development and what Oladipo may ultimately become for Oklahoma City. Another topic for another conversation, very interesting to me. I understand Oladipo as the next pick. That makes perfect sense to me. I think I would take, I don't know. This is hard.
It's probably Patrick Beverley, right? I'm not enamored of
anybody, and the reason is because, you're not building anywhere in a draft with Eric Gordon or Anderson. Patrick Beverley's an effective role player. I'm not even sure what the answer is.
Right. So now it's like after those first two, now you're in the Patrick Beverley, Eric Gordon, Capella, Lou Williams. He's probably a little further down. The Enes Kanter for some low post scoring. The point is, it's pretty even. And if anything, I would say Adams is by far the first pick. I mean, that guy's a good center. And Oladipo, from a ceiling standpoint, I think is probably higher than anyone on Houston. But Houston's team fits Harden better. They made a specific point of going out there and getting the type of guys that kind of would mesh with them, whereas Westbrook's more of a one-man show. And even the Taj Gibson trade, they just want to get him rebounders. Because bring another rebounder defender guy in there. They're kind of following the 0-1 Sixers model, which I appreciate. The whole reason I'm bringing this up is, I think Houston was expected to be a 41-win team. We didn't expect that. I think they were expected to be a fringe playoff team. People were dubious of Mike D'Antoni. Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson hadn't really been able to stay healthy the last couple years. There's no indication that this team was going to be a top 3 team in the West. You and I both love them because you and I both liked them because we thought taking Dwight off Houston was going to really help Harden, and Harden seemed a little more dedicated this year, more shooting, and we liked the stuff we read in the preseason about how they were going to unleash him. But they're going to exceed what everybody thought by 14 to 15 wins, and to me that matters. But on the other hand,
me too. It
also matters that OKC lost Durant and went from 55 wins to 46 or 47 wins. That matters too. Westbrook gets credit for that. I even think he gets credit for the fact that their over-under was 45.5 because people were so convinced that Westbrook was going to go off this season that they bumped the over-under up, and we still bet it. We bet the OKC over. We both liked it.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
totally
we were in.
It's a testament to Russell and his force of will. I mean, he wins the season. When we think back to the 10 years from now, when you look back at the 2016-2017 season, who won the season? It's going to be Russell. Everybody will say he went on this absolute, he was an assassin. It was a terror watch. I mean, I don't,
and you know what?
Night in, night out.
And that doesn't happen all the time. But it does happen, and you could go back and if we just go back this century, right? I can do this off the top of my head. 2000, Shaq won the season. Remember? That was like Phil Jackson showed up. Shaq had his monster year. They ended up winning the title. 01, Iverson won the season. And it was like, oh my God, Iverson, how are they doing this? They make the finals. 02, the Sacramento Kings won the season.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
03, Duncan won the season and the title. 04, nobody really won the season, and then the Pistons kind of just won it late and came on and they won the title. 05, the Artest Melee won the season. And Shaq.
Oh, no.
And Shaq going to Miami. I voted for Shaq that year. 06, Kobe won the season. Actually, you know what? 05, Nash and the Suns won that season. I take that back.
Well,
Shaq and Miami, there was some good stuff.
MVP, wasn't it?
Yeah, which I'm still not totally on board with, but yeah, there were good storylines that year. 06, Kobe. 07, there was nothing. That was the year I wrote the column where I voted for the fans for the MVP because I thought we deserved it because we had to sit through the shittiest season of all time. 08, Kobe won the MVP. I still feel like that was the wrong year he won. I thought he should have won in 06. I thought KG or Chris Paul should have won in 08. A lot of people won that season. 09, LeBron. That was the year LeBron just kicked everyone's ass. Same thing in 2010, and the decision was looming. He kind of won that season. 2011, Derrick Rose versus Miami with Wade and LeBron together. I would say those were the two things that won. 2012, LeBron, unbelievable. Same thing in 13. Durant wins 2014. Curry and the Warriors in 15 and 16. And then this year, Westbrook wins. Now, what's interesting is most of the time the guy who won the season also won the MVP, and that's one of my 4 categories for trying to pick the MVP. Who won the season? Who did it belong to? Clearly, Westbrook won the season. So why doesn't that make him the MVP?
Because we have standards for the MVP.
Okay.
If you go back through those years, in many of the years, there's at least 4 seasons where the guy that we think won the season didn't win the MVP.
Yeah. Well, and also, the thing I keep coming back to is he didn't really make anyone better on his team. And yet...
That's the Oladipo point I want to ponder a little bit
and
more.
Adams, too. I still feel like there's more with Adams. Adams is like the Westbrook henchman, basically. Like I feel like there's more in there. There's more lurking. There's a better offensive player. I just like him. I like his game. I wanted to see more, and like Kevin O'Connor surmised on the Ringer NBA show today, like that if Westbrook's chance to win, if he wanted to win a title, would be to play off the ball more. And not monopolize it as much. It'll make them a little more dangerous and make their offense a little more predictable. The team's down a lot. They always seem to be down 15 or 20. They rally back half the time. And I thought that was an interesting point, too. If you're trying to win a title, like I wrote a month ago, you can't win the title with somebody who has the ball this much, trying to do this much. But if you're trying to average a triple-double for the season or win the MVP with individual stats, it's the move. And that's obviously what he decided.
And we've observed this before. I give OKC a lot of credit. They recognized that this was a transition year, and they did an unprecedented thing. Like, everybody in that organization had to be all in with the idea of this usage rate with Westbrook.
Right.
An unprecedented amount of time he has the ball, possesses the ball, takes shots, gives out assists. That's cool. I totally support that. It made the regular season fantastic. It was absolutely the best thing for the franchise to do in this transition season. It made such a great mark, such a great response to KD leaving. And it was a wonderful story to watch all year long. And goodness gracious, he averaged a triple-double. It was effing unbelievable. But he ain't the MVP.
So your MVP is still Harden?
Yes. All the efficiency numbers favor Harden. The wins favor Harden. His teammates being better favor Harden.
Does it bother you?
Harden validated D'Antoni. He validated Morey.
Does it bother you that the players seem to think that Westbrook's the MVP?
I don't know. Not one bit. I don't trust the players' judgment on anything.
All right.
Have you seen their Instagram?
You know whose judgment I do trust? Yours with food. And Blue Apron, if you stopped wasting money on expensive takeout, which is a big ask for you, but if you did and you signed up with Blue Apron for less than $10 per meal, Blue Apron delivers easy-to-follow seasonal recipes along with pre-proportioned ingredients right to your door. They have the highest standards. They build a community of home chefs that has no rival. No more overspending at restaurants or high-end grocery stores. With Blue Apron, you can prepare delicious, memorable meals yourself in under 40 minutes. Here's some of the meals available in April.
This is my favorite part.
I know. That's why I saved this for you. I knew you would love this.
My favorite part.
Here are the April meals, House. Spinach and fresh mozzarella pizza with olives, bell peppers, and ricotta salata.
Oh, healthy spring pizza.
Sweet and sour salmon with bok choy, carrot, and ginger fried rice. I know you would eat that.
I mean, absolutely. I'm getting in swimsuit shape.
Parmesan crusted chicken with creamy fettuccine and roasted broccoli.
Oh, come on. Night.
And baby broccoli and fontina paninis with hard-boiled egg and arugula salad. Also very healthy Blue Apron this month.
Great April menu.
Right now you can get your first 3 Blue Apron meals for free with free shipping if you go to blueapron.com/BS. They should name a meal after your house. They should let you plan one of the 4 meals in May because nobody loves hearing what the meals are more than Joe House. Come on, Blue Apron.
I would gladly participate in that.
What Blue Apron meal would you suggest for them? What would be your dream Blue Apron meal?
Wow. It might be, this is an oldie but a goodie. Chicken parm, you taste so good.
All right, so House wants some sort of chicken parm deal for May.
Yeah.
Get on that Blue Apron.
Yeah.
And you can get on Blue Apron right now. Go to blueapron.com/BS. Get your first 3 Blue Apron meals for free with free shipping. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. All right, back to the MVP. I'm writing LeBron off. I think he's going to be in my 4 spot. That's the only thing I know for sure right now. I do not like how the Cavs ended the season. And
the back-to-back losses to the Hawks.
It's just horrible.
Make me furious.
How the F does a team with LeBron and Kyrie only win 50 games? How does that happen?
Now, I can't get past. They gave up 44 points in the fourth quarter to the Hawks on Sunday night. 44 points in the fourth quarter. I can't get over that.
So you're with me with LeBron in the 4 spot?
Yeah, you can't put him any higher than that.
Yeah.
It would have been better for him to have not played these last 10 games than to play and have the Cavs with this extraordinarily spotty effort. It's just an effort thing, it seems, with them.
I mean, I'm starting to think about Curry in the 4th spot. I won't do it, but I did have the thought. I did sneak a peek at Curry. Yeah, that team's going to win like 67 games.
LeBron's first 45, 50 games are awesome.
I know. Well, let's agree on this. If Westbrook doesn't win, it's the most fun storyline for next season. It's the only way we could make him angrier and fill him with even more hate and just the intensity and relentlessness, I think, is to deny him the MVP. Let's see if he can go high. Let's see if he can do 35, 15, and 15 every game.
I'm on board.
Let's see if his usage rate can get to 50%. Let's deny Russell Westbrook the MVP. It's better for basketball. I think if we give him the MVP, it makes him soft. He's never the same. He's never as angry. He feels like he proved what he needed to prove. The whole thing. Now, I don't know. I'm going to think about it the next 24 hours. And, man, that Sunday really shook me. On Sunday, I decided I was going with Harden. And then that Denver game shook me, and I was like, man, am I going to hate myself in 10 years because I didn't vote for Westbrook? That's where I am.
Yeah, but think about, you made this point earlier, and this is the thing that really, to me, hampers the case. They've been making massive comebacks against crappy teams all season long. Like a lot of those, game-tying threes that he's made or the push at the end, he scored 13 points with no response at all out of Denver. Now, part of the thing for OKC, they deserve credit. Great team defense all season long, and notwithstanding the fact that Russell's own individual defensive stats have not been great team defense for OKC.
Did you see that stat?
So that factors in.
538 had a stat about it was something like amount of times he ran out on somebody, and it was like the lowest in the league for contested times he's contested a shot. It was like 3.8 a game. It was basically where I was in my last 2 years playing pickup basketball. I was Russell Westbrook contesting shots. That wasn't good.
But he's expending so much energy on the offensive end. I mean, he's not superhuman. But the thing about that Denver game, that comeback, the same is true of Phoenix. They were out of that game. I mean, they just, they're not competitive against crappy teams. They don't have a very good record against good teams. Too often not competitive against crappy teams is the way I would say it.
I would argue if they end up at 46 and 36, to me that's a disappointment. I bet on them to win the division. I looked at the wagers that we may or may not have made, and I bet on them plus 285 to win the division. I thought they were the best team in that division. Utah's going to beat them by 4 games. Not positive that makes sense to me either. Why? How could they not get to 50 wins with Westbrook's MVP season? Doesn't make sense. Cantor got hurt for 20 games, but other than that, they had Taj during the middle of the season. They had McDermott, who was a better outside shooter than really anybody they had. It doesn't really make sense to me. Thought they could have been a tiny bit better. I don't know if the MVP should be making me say to myself, why wasn't that team better? Whereas Houston, I'm like, that team won. The Houston won in their mid-50s, and it's like, wow, that's pretty good. That's Mike D'Antoni. Anyway, all right, House. I'll let you know. I'll text you. I'll let you know what I decide. Oh, quickly on the Masters, because I know you broke down all of it on Shack House. But we should point out that you recommended wagers. You recommended a few different golfers, but your big bets, 2 of them were Sergio Garcia and Justin Rose, who do it on the last round. So I was proud of you. That was great.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do give out recommendations for a whole number of golfers in different kinds of bets and different increments.
Right.
But that's because it's effing golf. I mean, it's impossible to pick the winner. You have to, have a feel for a few different guys. And you never know which guy is in a fight with his girlfriend and which guy had a bad zucchini salad the night before. I mean, I can't factor all that stuff in.
Or who fell down the stairs.
Guys that are in form. And
what about who fell down the stairs?
Well, fortunately, I did not have any. I hadn't made any wagers by the time that occurred. I mean, that was a very
the old fall down the stairs.
That was the conspiracy theorists are out. I mean, I'm not perpetuating any of these conspiracies. I'm not responsible for it.
It made me blanch.
This was very curious that Jimmy Walker and Dustin Johnson were paired together, and then they didn't end up playing together. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that.
Anyway, that was great, though. Great Masters. I really enjoyed watching it on my crappy Wi-Fi feed on my iPad as I watched my daughter play soccer, and it kept cutting in and out, and I finally followed it on Twitter. But I did watch it. I watched the replay, and all right, we got to go, but what's your favorite Masters hole? Because I have a whole theory about this.
My favorite Masters hole?
Yeah, your favorite Masters hole.
Is 15.
Oh, that's
15
mine, too.
is my favorite Masters hole.
Because I like
course.
Well, I like 15 because it also leads to 16. So it's like I'm getting seconds right away. You know, I'm getting like all the drama of 15, but then right away the approach shot on 16. It's just a great 15 minutes. It's the best. Masters 15 and 16 is the best. Totally
agree. Couldn't disagree one bit. It really sets the stage for how that out of all the groups coming through, those last 6 groups, the performance on 15 and 16 distinguishes who's going to, follow through or not. My man Thomas Peters, a rookie this year that I also put out there, nice 6-1 odds as top debutant. He came through. He had birdied 12 through 15 and then bogeyed 16, and that derailed him. He was really making a charge there. But those are the holes that always, 15, 16 set the stage. Charles Schwartzel, however many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, birdied in from 15, 4 straight birdies. He won the Masters that way. So that's why 15 and 16 are so great. You are absolutely right.
All right, nice work. Listen to the Shack House Pod. Download, subscribe.
House.
I'll let you know what I did. Thank you.
All right, fingers crossed. Make the right decision. Don't be a pervert.
Before we get to the Fast and Furious stuff, I want to talk about ZipRecruiter. Whether it's a first or 7th round pick, drafting the right player is the key to success. That big wide receiver, the speedy edge rusher that can take your team to new heights. The same goes for your business or department. Finding the right talent makes all the difference when you need to hire. Where do you go to scout talent? You can't find top talent by posting your job to just one site. You got to post your jobs to all the top job sites. And now you can with ZipRecruiter. With ZipRecruiter, instantly distribute your job to 200-plus job boards across the web, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with one click. ZipRecruiter identifies potential candidates, notifies them about your job in a matter of minutes. No more countless hours searching. ZipRecruiter does the searching for you. You can select, screen, and rate candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. Find the right fit fast. Don't get stuck without the right lineup. Discover today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes nationwide. And right now, my listeners can kick off their hiring on ZipRecruiter for free. Oh, yeah, for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Try it for free today. ZipRecruiter.com/BS. And now, the Fast and the Furious. All right, I'm here with Neil Moritz.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say Moritz, but it's Moritz.
Like St. Moritz.
St. Moritz.
Yeah.
The producer of my favorite franchise of all time.
Mine too.
I want to go through your career and how you got there, but I want to start with the movie. Fast 1.
Yes, sir.
2001?
2001.
I think I had just started ESPN. I went to see it. I remember where I saw it. It was in Revere. I was living in Charlestown at the time. And you had to get on the highway to drive back to my house. And I got on the highway, and I drove like 130 miles an hour.
Right.
And was just weaving between cars. I'm sure you get that a lot.
Well, actually, the first time we ever showed that movie was out in Chatsworth in California at the same theater. We've done the test screenings for every one of these movies.
Yeah.
And, when we made this movie, we thought we were making like this really cool kind of B-genre kind of street culture movie. And we made this movie, and it was really cool, and I thought it was going to be a really cool movie. But when we showed it that first time, and I walked out into the parking lot after the movie's over, and I saw kids in their cars just doing donuts and ripping around in their cars, and kids in groups talking and screaming and yelling. And that's when I knew we had something special.
So I rebelled against it a tiny bit the first time I saw it because I love Point Break.
One of my favorite
movies.
movies.
Was like, this is Point Break with cars. Like, this is, what? They could have just made Point Break 2 as much as I enjoyed it. And then the more I thought about it over the next couple months, I was like, Point Break with cars, pretty good. And then it started coming on cable, and that's when I was in.
Yeah, well, to me, it's, Point Break meets Godfather in a way. In terms
Family.
of the family aspect of the themes of that, but Point Break, and those are if somebody, when I speak at a lot of like university film school type things, and people ask me what my favorite movie is, it's Godfather 1 and 2, and kind of that combined with Point Break, which is another movie that I loved. Like that's where I would hopefully have Fast and Furious live.
The sweet spot. So how did the movie get made? What happens?
Whose
idea is it, and what's the process?
There was an article about the street racing culture in New York City, and I was making another movie at the time when we saw this article, and I thought it could be a great backdrop for a film. I love movies about lifestyles and about subcultures, and I thought this fit perfectly within that. Now, then we had to obviously find a story that could fit within that culture. And when we came up with the idea of an undercover cop going into this world, that was kind of the driving engine between this. And we had a couple scripts written, and we just thought there could possibly be a movie here. I had been working with Paul Walker on another movie, Skulls. I gave him the script. Rob Cohen, who had made Rat Pack with and Skulls with, gave him the script. The two of them liked the idea, Paul being a carhead. And then we had to look for Dom Toretto. And the studio said, if you can get Timothy Olyphant to play that role, we will greenlight the movie.
To play Dom Toretto?
Play Dom Toretto.
So you had Paul Walker. You never thought about possibly going for Keanu?
No.
Okay.
But we caved.
So you say it was like a Moneyball decision with Paul Walker. He's still on his way up.
He was on his way up,
Yeah.
but I loved him. I had made a couple films with him. I felt like he had that potential. He had obviously the great American looks.
Was this before Varsity Blues or after?
This was
after, right?
Was it after or before? I cannot
Varsity
remember
Blues
now.
was 99.
Because I had made Skulls with him, and I knew him prior to that, but I can't. It might have been after. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then so. Luckiest thing that ever happened to us is that Tim Olyphant turned us down.
Wow, he's a good actor.
He's a great actor.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm curious to see what that version of that movie would have been.
It's a good what if.
And then when he turned us down, I said to the studio, there was this guy I'd seen in this movie. I think he'd be great.
What movie was it?
Was it the original Pitch Black at the time, I think. Yeah. And I went and I met him at Kate Manalini's, and he wasn't a star yet, but the great thing about Vin is he always believed he was a star.
Right, his rational confidence.
And I was like, I'm going in there kind of to think that he's going to be coming to me to want the role, and I'm the one there now having to convince him to do the role. And lucky for both of us that happened, and then we started to make the movie.
So who was Plan C then?
I don't think that we would have ever made the movie if he did not.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
That's a terrible scenario.
Well,
I don't even like talking about that.
When I look back, I don't know who else could have played the role. And we went off and made that movie, and this little movie, now 17 years later, I'm sitting here on number 8. The interesting thing is somebody asked me the other day, when I first started in this movie, I wasn't married, didn't have kids, obviously, and now I've got a 16-year anniversary coming up, and 14-year-old and 11-year-old. So when I look at these movies, I not only look at kind of the fact that we have 8 movies, but I look at it as each one of these as an incredible life experience along the way, not only with my family on the movie side, but on my personal
Was the
family.
first one a hit?
The first one was a huge hit. It came
Huge
out,
hit, okay.
I think the first one came out on the first weekend at the time, maybe did $35 or $38 million. I can't remember the exact number.
Did the studio know it was going to be a hit?
I think people thought that there was something there, but nobody envisioned that it could go on to do that kind of business. It was, I think, and that was at the point, I think, where the studio was going through a little bit of a lull, and this was kind of one of the bright spots. We've been lucky enough that, studios have cycles of good, bad, most of the time. Luckily, Universal's been on a great roll for a long time now. But there was a point in time where we were always kind of the bright, shining star for the studio when they, weren't having that much success.
But you don't have the guys locked up for a sequel. You don't have both of them.
On that one?
For Fast 2.
No, for Fast 2,
Vin's
no.
not in Fast 2.
No, we did not have them. In fact, I went off. We couldn't make a deal with Vin.
I'm not doing it.
So we ultimately, I went with him and made Triple X, the first one. And
so you almost like cheated on the Fast franchise with Triple X.
It's weird because I would say that some people thought that the first Triple X was the sequel to Fast and Furious.
I'm not one of those people.
Okay, well, some people did. And yes, so we were doing that, and then Paul wanted to do it, and then we brought in Tyrese.
And that was also a success.
That was definitely a success.
That was kind of underrated, I feel like.
Well, I don't
Fast
know.
2, I feel, is on the underrated side.
I don't know if it was as creative a success as some of the other ones have been, but it was definitely a financial success. And it strayed a little bit of what Fast and Furious was, but it was still a movie that I really enjoyed making, and I still enjoy watching today. I think it was the emergence of Tyrese, and I think that relationship between Tyrese and Paul Walker was really good. And I love the locale of that movie, shooting in Miami. I thought it had a really great look, and then that's where we introduced, I guess, Ludacris as well. So there's a lot of pieces from that movie that have carried forward.
So then Fast 3.
Fast 3 was like, God, what are we going to do here? It was almost like, are we going to go make a direct-to-DVD movie, or are we going to try?
It was over at this point.
We kind of were like, what's the impetus for us to be able to continue, and what can make it fresh, and what can we do?
And Paul Walker's out. He's like, I'm not in.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly why that went down at this time, but we felt like that we needed to make a cheaper version of the movie. We couldn't keep the budget couldn't keep going up at that point, so we went off to make the Tokyo Drift version. And when we made that, we felt like we had something really cool, and then we were able to convince Vin to come back and do the cameo at the end of 3, which catapulted the franchise in a whole different direction back to where we were, and allowed us to now go on this kind of stratospheric rise that we've had from 4 through 8.
So you waited out Vin a little bit, because there was a point there where it seemed like Vin was going to be this A-plus list action star.
I don't know if we waited him out per se. That was something that was going on between himself and the studio. I always felt that Vin really was kind of the lifeblood of what Fast and Furious was, and I really did feel like if we were going to continue, we needed to have Vin in the movie, and we were lucky enough to convince him why it was good for us and why it was good for him, and how we could continue on if he came back.
So did you know you knew in the Fast 3 cameo that he's coming back for Fast 4?
Well, the idea was come back. We really want you back. Let's see how it goes, with the anticipation of going to do a 4th based on that.
And what was the reception for Fast 3?
Fast 3 was actually, it's funny, it's either people's favorite or least favorite.
Favorite? Who are those people?
Some people love Tokyo Drift.
What?
Yep, they do. It's really, what I find interesting is everybody has a different favorite. I mean, I have different favorites for different reasons. I actually like parts of all the different movies for different reasons. And but in terms of Tokyo Drift, there are a lot of people that really like that movie.
It was a great title. Didn't it had a video game element that kind of carried it on, right? Was there a video game, or there was some sort of...
We did some kind of mobile video game kind of attached along with it.
I feel like it's the names around. It's on cable a lot,
and then
too.
Also I think we did like an arcade game that was called Tokyo Drift.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was the arcade game.
But yeah, what's funny is that, when you're in these foreign countries, which I'm in a lot of time for doing press for the movies, or actually for the making of the movies, and you turn on the channels, there is almost at no time where you will turn on some channel where you won't see some Fast and Furious movie. It's really interesting.
It transcends all languages.
When we were in Cuba shooting, they couldn't legally license our movies. They don't pay us to air the movies there. But on their 50 channels that they have there was Fast and Furious on at all times.
Right. So Fast 4, which was spectacular. What year was that? 2008, maybe?
2008 or 2009.
And that's when you knew, like, all right, we now have a chance to turn this into a franchise.
Yeah, we kind of just felt like it kept building, and my feeling is that the only way to be able to keep going with Fast and Furious was to give the audience enough of what they liked in previous films, but to give them something new each time out, whether it was the addition of a cast, whether it was a plot twist, whether it was the tag we'd have on a movie that would launch us into the next one, where we find out Michelle Rodriguez is alive, or whatever it is we always needed something that was going to be different in the next film. We couldn't just do a rehash each time. I think that the audience knows they're going to come and they're going to see great cars. They're going to see the characters that they love. They know they're going to get to see great action sequences that, we try and top each other each time, and but I think they also feel like they're getting something new each time.
And you lucked out. Justin Lin directed Tokyo Drift,
Justin
right?
Lin directed,
who's excellent. Then he does 4 and 5.
4, 5, 6, and now he's directing right now for me the pilot for the television show SWAT, based on the movie I did, based on the television show.
Wait, what's
we're doing SWAT TV shows for NBC.
That was one of my first favorite shows.
Mine too, and that's why I made the movie. I made the movie
mainly because of the theme song.
Well, I love the theme song.
Yeah.
Barry DeVorsen did the theme song, and so what's interesting is I'm working with Justin on that.
Yeah.
I'm working with James Wan, who did number 7, on something else, and then I'm sure Gary Gray and I will do another project down the line.
So fast forward happens. And now all of a sudden it becomes clear this is like the Bond franchise for this generation, that you could just keep cranking these out, but you have to keep adding stuff.
Yeah, so in Fast 5, the big addition was obviously The Rock.
Fast 5 is my favorite, just for the record.
I have.
It's the most satisfying start to finish experience.
Well, I think the sequence of dragging that vault through the streets.
Brazil's amazing.
I'll never forget standing on the streets of Puerto Rico where we shot most of that action sequence, and standing there, and I'm like, they're actually letting us do this.
Right.
They're letting us. I mean, this wasn't like CGI fake. This was us dragging a vault behind these cars, going 80, 90 miles an hour, wrecking hundreds of cars.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Was that the first Fast moment that you were like, wow, this is too ambitious, or was there one from Fast 4?
I'm trying to remember.
Because that was the first one for me where I remember being in the theater like, how did they do this? I don't understand.
We've always pushed ourselves to go as far as we can go and to try and do it as real and practical as possible. Like, CGI is kind of our enemy. Like, we only really will go to CGI if we can't do it
If you're
safely.
jumping through 2 buildings in Dubai.
Yeah, well, it was funny, though, in the 2 buildings in Dubai, we actually jumped the cars, but we built on a stage in Atlanta. We built coming out of one building and going into another building, and then we superimposed those on these 2 towers that existed in Dubai, but we actually did that jump.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was in the convention center in Atlanta, where we took over that whole huge convention center and built the 2 things and jumped it.
And who would have thought that wasn't even one of the top 3 most unrealistic moments in the series?
Exactly. We've had a lot of them. I still
think landing the cars from the planes on parachutes right onto the mountain at full speed can't be topped.
Okay, well but to me, actually, the longest runway in the world is probably the one for me.
Nobody realized that until they saw the movie a second time, I don't think. It was like, wait a second, how long is this runway?
Some guy did like some thesis on it. I remember. Yeah, it was amazing.
It was like 29 miles or something?
Yeah, I'm always so impressed by our fans who go off and do these things and do the math for us. I love it. It's just so rewarding to see that, because honestly, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the movies and a fan of movies all together. But when on the end of 7, when we for the first time screened that movie out at that same theater in Chatsworth, and the movie ended, and it was probably the most nerve-wracking night of my life, because here we did this, and all we wanted to do was honor who Paul was and his legacy, and the last thing in the world I wanted to do was let him or the audience down. And I'm standing there after the screening had ended, and the screening went incredible, but I'm standing in the lobby waiting for the fans to fill out the cards and for us to get our score and to see how we did, and I'm standing there in the corner. And these 4 young kids come up to me, 17, 18-year-old kids, and they come up to me and say, "Thank you so much." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, you don't understand. Like, we needed that to get through our grieving of Paul. And I was like, wow. I thought we were doing that for us. It didn't come to me that we were actually doing it for the fans as well. And the thing is something that I can never live down is in Fast and Furious 1, I was the guy in the red Ferrari on PCH who goes, when Paul Walker says, "Ferrari, how much did that cost?" And I say, "More than you can afford, pal, Ferrari." That's how those kids recognize me a lot of times from that one. So
that was you?
That was me, unfortunately. Yes, and
wow.
I vowed that I would never go on screen again after that. But Rob Cohen, the director at the time, convinced me to do it, and then now when I won't do it for other directors, they're like, "Well, we're not your favorite anymore." And I was just like, "No, I'm just a bad actor. I don't want to ruin your scene too."
Right.
But that was the most rewarding part of making these movies.
I saw that one we still had Grantland at that point. I was still there, and we went. They had that big theater in LA Live, so I went with
Right.
I think Rafe Bartholomew and Marco Santi and one other person.
Was it
Dave
was
Schilling.
it a packed
It was like
crowd?
an afternoon packed crowd, and that ending we didn't know, because I always try to avoid like reading about it. I didn't know how you're going to handle it,
Yeah.
and I was really dubious of how it was going to be handled, and then it goes and the whole thing, and it was like one of those. We're all trying not to. We're all choked
Right.
up. We're like trying not to make eye contact with each other. And then we all just started laughing. We were like, it was like a real male bonding moment.
I can't watch. I cannot watch the movie anymore because I know that if I watched it right now, I would cry with it, because Paul was the greatest guy I'd ever met. He was a real guy's guy. Girls loved him, guys loved him. He was so full of life. He really was a surfer, outdoorsman. More than an actor, and even though he was really good at what he did, he was just the greatest guy in the world. And honestly, when that happened, when his passing happened, that accident happened, we were just like, we're not going to finish the movie. How
much had you done at that point?
We'd done over half of the movie.
Yeah.
And we were just like, we can't finish the movie. We just can't do it. And kind of Universal said, take some time, think about it, see what you guys want to do. And we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what we could do or what we should do. And then did you get input from the cast and stuff? Yeah, we all sat there and we all talked, and we spent a lot of time together. Whether it was we had a little ceremony at the accident site, or whether it was at the funeral where I spoke. I didn't have to speak. I was honored to speak, and it was maybe the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. In fact, I was sitting there about to go up at the funeral to give my speech, and I was just like, I said to my wife, I said, I don't think I can do it here. Will you take my speech and go do it for me? And she says, no, you need to do it. And it was the most cathartic thing for me ever. I'm glad I did it, because I would never forgive myself if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Chris Morgan came up with that idea at the end of the road splitting that we knew we had a path to the end of this movie, and then we had to work our way backwards and figure out, with the footage that we already had existing and the special effects things that we were able to do, how we could make that story work. But I look back at it, and that scene in combination with that song, I thought was the perfect.
How'd you get the song? Did you know you had the song,
no,
or did you tell him to do it, or how?
No,
did it
that
work?
song was written for the movie. We have like these songwriting camps kind of things where we show a lot of songwriters, the movie or particular scenes, and we said, here's the scene, this is what we're looking for, come back with it. And I remember when I first heard that first melody that Charlie Puth wrote, that we knew we had something incredible. Yeah. And, there was talk about, is Charlie Puth going to be the artist, or are we going to replace him with somebody else? And I'm so glad that we went with his soulful version of it with Wiz Khalifa on top. And I just think it's, the perfect combination of music and film. Some people say to me, are you disappointed that you never guys get honored, awards? And I said, the only award that I ever thought that we got bypassed for, that we should have really got, was that in the Academy Awards that song,
the best song
wasn't nominated and
I
should have
totally
won.
Agree.
There was no song more fitting to a movie, to the emotion or the picture, than that song in the history of cinema, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's one of the best endings ever. It's one of the best song and scene combinations. And you're right, like, there's a bias against super successful movies and comedies with the Oscars, but that's a good example of like what song meant more to a movie than that song. I can't even imagine.
I think that,
plus it was so important that if you guys had fucked that up, the whole franchise is dead, and nobody forgives you for it, and then it affects how people regard the other movies too.
It was so
the
nice.
Stakes were so high for it.
It was so nice. We had the premiere Saturday night at Radio City Music Hall in front of 5,000 screaming fans, and it was just an incredible. It was like a barnstorm. I mean, people were going crazy, and it was so nice. I didn't know till that day that Paul Walker's mother and daughter would be at the premiere, and I found out that day, and that made me kind of nervous. And I think the way we've handled that in number 8 is as special as what we've done. And I mean, different but special. And they were so pleased and so proud of the fact that that's how we've done it. And we've really tried to, keep the family involved with us. They'll always be involved in the franchise.
So working backwards in that one, you had all this footage of Paul Walker, but then you had all these other scenes he had to be in. And
we wrote a lot of new
you had to
material.
rewrite some stuff, and
because we were lucky is we had the tinge of a fact that Paul and Jordana were getting tired of this life, or they have kids, and so we had just the beginnings of that, and we thought that would be a great through line for their characters. The question was, how were we able to do scenes along the way till the end that we hadn't shot, and obviously Paul couldn't shoot. How could we do that with existing footage or voice or visual effects or the brothers, or how could we do it?
So you used his brothers for some of the fill-in stuff, right?
We never used their faces.
Right,
we used their we were like, who's going to be the closest to him in terms of manners?
Yeah.
And we used them for that in combination with digital capture that we already had of Paul, and in terms of with visual effects that was created.
I thought
for
you guys were pretty tight-lipped about how you did it.
It
was the one thing, like during the movie, like I remember Googling it, like how'd they do this? We
didn't want to ruin, the experience for the people. What was funny is when we showed the movie, and I remember at one point we asked the question, can anybody tell which is Paul and which not? And the scenes that people picked that they didn't think were Paul were really Paul. So
wow.
I think that Weta in New Zealand did a fantastic job of doing that. I actually went to New Zealand to give this motivational speech to the guys who are there working 24 hours a day to get that finished in time, and just let them know how important Paul was to us, and that we needed it. That's how good we needed it to be.
So did somebody tells you this idea, like, yeah, we think we can do screen capture. Did you actually think it was going to work?
I really believe these guys because they're the best in the business.
There had to have been a small shred of doubt, like, what if they're wrong? And
there was
we have no movie.
There was a huge shred of doubt, and honestly, there was no turning back. Once we started, there was no turning back, and we didn't get the final shots till weeks from the time the movie was coming out.
And is this like millions of dollars? How expensive,
Very expensive. It was breaking new ground.
Right. See, I'm fascinated by this because it feels like you stumbled on something that, in a lot of ways, this is where movies could go. Like, what if we made Godfather 4 and you had Marlon Brando in it?
Yeah, I think you could do it. I think you can do it in limited amounts and get away with it from the audience. We were lucky that we never had two scenes in a row where it wasn't the real Paul Walker.
Right.
Okay. So let's say we had the real Paul Walker, and then we had the special effect version of Paul Walker, and if people start to say, is that the next scene is the real Paul Walker, so now all of a sudden it gets discounted. So we got lucky. Honestly, he was smiling down on us and made it all work. I don't know if we can do it again.
And his family was cool with everything.
We walked them through everything. They knew how special he was to us and how special the franchise was to him, and they really encouraged us to finish.
Quick break to talk about baseball. My fantasy season is already over because Byron Buxton killed it. But that doesn't mean that I'm still not going to watch baseball all year. The new season's underway. The Ringer Podcast Network has baseball fans covered with the Ringer MLB Show playing for free on the TuneIn app for the month of April. Download the TuneIn app for free, and you can listen to Ben Lindbergh and Michael Bauman, my friends, break down baseball's biggest stories throughout the opening month of the baseball season. Maybe they'll talk about how Byron Buxton murdered my team. As a bonus for Ringer listeners, the Ringer Podcast Network has partnered with TuneIn to give baseball fans a free 60-day trial of TuneIn Premium to listen to every live home call from every MLB game around the league. Catch the Ringer MLB Show only on TuneIn for the entire month for free. And when you upgrade to TuneIn Premium, you also get live MLB games. Just go to tunein.com/ringer and subscribe. Download the TuneIn app for free. Start listening today. Tune in, your everything audio app. Back to Neil Moritz. How did you convince The Rock to be in Fast Five? Because you could argue he was the biggest star in that movie and he didn't have the biggest part.
Well, I had worked with him on a movie I did called The Gridiron Gang, which was about this prison camp, based on a true story documentary that I'd seen. So I had a good relationship with him. And I have to give his agent credit. His agent came to us at the time and said, I really want to get Rock in this. And we're like, really? And we went to Rock, and it all worked out. And, so he started in 5, 6, 7, and 8. And, we hope to do many others with him. I think.
Did you have to add $5 million a movie in the budget for body butter and stuff like that?
No, he brings his own.
He brings his own. That
was included in the price.
Negotiating
that was included in the price, yeah. But he's the hardest working guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy doesn't stop.
He's going to be the president of the United States someday.
I would vote for him.
Maybe that's Fast 12.
Maybe. Everybody keeps
President
saying,
Rock.
I don't know, there's this rumor out there right now that the next Fast is going to space. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And
Space?
And 5 different reporters have asked me about this. And I go, I don't know where this is coming from, but no, we're not going to space.
Well, what other places are left?
There's a lot of places I want to see. I've got to
Aren't you
travel
in
the world.
Antarctica this time or something? There's some.
Well, this time
don't tell me too much.
This
but
time
it looks
we went,
wintry.
We shot in Iceland.
Okay,
we
Iceland.
Shot in Cuba. We shot in L.A. We shot in New York. We shot in Cleveland, and we shot in Atlanta.
Cleveland.
Yes, because we needed a place where we could wreck a lot of cars in a very urban setting.
What a stretch for Cleveland. They make the World Series. The Cavs win.
I was there.
Republican convention. Furious.
I was right there during the basketball playoffs, and I actually got to go see LeBron play. It was worth it. That's why we went, so I can go see LeBron play.
What are the Rock and Vin Diesel stuff? I never know what to believe and not believe.
I mean, honestly, I kind of just.
I had to ask. I know it's uncomfortable.
I can't count it up to every family has a little tiff once in a while, but it's all good. It's all fine. It's no big deal. I mean, honestly,
Tommy, you believe that?
I believe it.
Okay. Tommy believes it.
They have different styles of working, but they're both huge stars, and they both bring a lot to the franchise. And
this is a great answer. This is like hearing.
And I wish I
talk about.
I wish I could have more of them.
When they fought in Fast 5, nobody wins the fight. It's very carefully. It's like they go to the scorecards. Harold Letterman just scores at 9-10. He doesn't even give everyone a 10-point round.
Yes.
Was there a lot of thought put into that to make sure nobody got the upper hand?
I think that we were really determined that it was going to be the most equal fight of all time.
Yeah.
And
I think it was.
We wanted it to be like you were in that room with the two of them beating the shit out of each other, and I think we accomplished that.
What about Ronda Rousey versus Michelle Rodriguez?
That was in
7.
That was in 7 in Dubai, and Ronda hit her pretty good. But the thing is, Michelle can fight. Now she can't fight like Ronda in real life, but she can fight, and so that was a good battle.
So there was an accidental hit.
They went at it pretty good. They were it wasn't tame. Like they were going for it.
Yeah.
And then there was the Gina Carano. Michelle won in 6.
I've never liked her after she turned on everyone.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But that was a good reveal at the time.
It was good.
People did not see that coming.
Nah, I've never forgiven her.
And there's a couple twists in number 8 that people definitely do not see coming.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, after 7, we were really we could have just stopped. I mean, honestly, there was a lot of conversation.
How dare you?
There was a lot of conversation about stopping.
That's
honestly.
ridiculous.
I know, but, it felt like a fitting place. And we were determined that we weren't going to do it unless we could come up with an idea that was really worthy of it. And I think when Chris Rogan, the writer, came up with the idea that Dom goes bad and turns against the team, that turned the light bulb on for me. And I was like, okay, now I can see how we can keep going.
I was saying in the Ringer office a few months ago that, you get season tickets for sports franchises. And some movie franchises had that too. Like a new Star Wars movie comes out, all the Star Wars people are going.
Of course.
Like it's just sign it up, just charge my credit card. And I think the Fast Furious franchise, I never totally know what to call it because it's been the Fast and the Furious, Fast Furious.
I just call it the Fast franchise.
The Fast franchise, okay. Yeah. It earned season ticket status for me between 4 and 5.
Well, I think, I think
4 was so satisfying, and it was like, all right, they've gotten it. They figured out the family part, which obviously your Godfather 1 and 2 thing, there's some DNA in that. But once they figured out that it was really about family and friendship, and Dom's the center of that, and that's what he carried, that's when it felt like it could just keep going and going and keep adding people.
But I think that movie audiences are so fickle. I think that you go make a bad one, and
that goes without saying.
So we honestly, everybody talks about, 8, 9, 10, it's a trilogy, da, 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 da. And I keep saying to everybody involved in the movie, no, let's make 8 great, and then we'll worry about 9. Like, we kind of have the big overarching ideas of what that 8, 9, 10 can be.
Outer space.
And yeah, exactly.
The White House.
And I know we're definitely what the last scene of it's going to be. But I don't really know what's going to happen in between it, and I don't think any of us really do. We were just determined to make 8 great. I think coming off of 7, where people emotionally so clicked with that film, I think there was a lot of people doubting as to why there needed to be an 8. And I said to everybody,
who are these people? I want to fight them.
There's a lot of people, and I think
it's terrible.
And I think that 8 has just a lot of pressure on it about it being worthy. And honestly, I feel like we really did meet the challenge. There were many times during the process where I wasn't sure we were going to be able to meet the challenge. But now that I look at the end product and I look at it, watch it with an audience, it definitely has met those goals.
What's been the most expensive of the 8 to make?
8. Number 8.
Oh, 8?
Yes, for sure.
Because all those cities you went to, or the
all
salaries,
cities,
or everything?
And just think about the amount of big actors we have in the cities and travel and success.
Who's the biggest actor who wanted to be in this series, but you couldn't cram him or her in?
It's interesting. It wasn't until recently that we've actually had actors come to us who wanted to be part of Fast and Furious. It used to be we had to beg people to be involved with a Fast and Furious movie. People, I never felt like we were the team that didn't get that much respect, and now it's turned, and that's why like both Charlize and Helen Mirren and Statham and The Rock, people have started to come to us and say we want to be involved in the franchise.
Is there anybody you didn't fit in that? Or you can't say?
No, but we have some ideas of who we want to have going forward.
So is that all you have to do to be in? You just have to ask?
I think, sure, we'll put you in as do you want to play a dead body or something?
No, I want to be in the Ferrari and make some catty comments.
You're a little old for that.
I'm too old?
You're too old.
Maybe I could,
Unless you're like
maybe a Range Rover?
No, maybe it could be like the douchebag in the Range Rover.
I'll do it. I'll do whatever.
Okay, that's fair enough. That part was reserved for me, but I will give it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So nobody, you never swatted anyone away? No athletes?
We've had
a couple.
We've had a lot of musicians who have come to us.
Rappers.
A lot of rappers have come to us, and definitely athletes. But I am just like there are certain car companies that come to us and want their cars to be part of our film.
Yeah.
I feel like that if they don't fit what a Fast and Furious movie is, there's no way, no matter how much money they want to offer us to have their car in the movie, there's no way I'm putting them in the movie. It just takes the reality.
You guys pick the cars. There's no back anything.
Well, no, we do have a relationship with Dodge,
okay.
But those cars, the only reason we have that is because those cars fit our movie, right? Yeah. Whereas other car companies have come to us, they just don't fit what a Fast and Furious movie is, and our audience can smell it. Like, we're like the poster child for diversity in movies, and I think a lot of other movies have tried to do that, but when it doesn't feel organic to the subject matter or the type of movie you're making, the audience smells it and they just like, so they put an Asian guy in, and a Hispanic girl, and a black guy. So, to fill out, to attract an audience, whereas for our movie, it feels organic, and we've always been, I think, the inclusive movie versus the exclusive movie, and I think that most people believe that they could come be a part of our crew and be accepted for who they are, because that's kind of what we've tried to establish.
So Dom's never going to drive a Volkswagen Jetta because they offered a lot of money or anything like that.
I don't think so.
What about Corona? Corona's doing. You and Corona have some sort of relationship.
We love Corona.
Dom drinks a lot of Corona.
Yes, he does.
You got to teach Vin Diesel how to drink a beer before Fast 10.
He holds it like this.
He always tilts it all the way up, like upside down.
He holds it like this.
Yeah, does he not?
I don't know. It's his thing.
Isn't there a beer drinking coach?
But he does that in person too.
So that's like his move?
That's his thing.
I've never seen anyone drink a beer like that.
I've never seen that either.
I think
it's an acquired
his signature.
It's his signature, for sure. It's definitely.
I always wonder if maybe he never drinks beer other than
he does. He likes beer.
It's like
He actually
watching
likes
when
beer.
some actors are trying to smoke and they hold their fingers wrong, and you can tell they're not
Luckily,
smokers.
you can't really have smoking in movies anymore. All the studios have really banned it from being able to have a movie unless it's like a period piece or unless it's like some filmmaker that has such power that he can convince the studio.
So is Corona the official beer of Fast and Furious?
Official beer of Fast and Furious.
It is.
Unpaid.
When did that happen?
Unpaid official beer of Fast and Furious.
Unpaid, you've done like hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising for them.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. But
they could float you like a 5-spot or something.
Or just give me a lifetime of Corona beer.
Yeah, they should be mailing
I should have
cases and cases.
I should have a pallet of it in front of my house right now.
You should have a giant cake of it. Who is the worst driver of all the Fast franchise people that you had to really do the most work with?
I think Natalie Emanuel, I don't remember being a great driver. I'm trying to remember there was somebody who had not driven before our movie, and I can't remember who it was. But most of them, Michelle's great.
All right.
Vin can drive. Tyrese can drive. Ludacris can drive.
Vin just can't run. You have to hide his running. The running's a little...
Yeah. Probably.
There's a couple good YouTube clips of Vin.
Luckily, he doesn't have to run very much in life.
He's in a car. He doesn't. Yeah.
He doesn't have to run very much in life because
fine.
people usually run away from him.
Yeah.
But when you're big and strong, it's a little harder to run.
What's the biggest complaint you get about the franchise from people? Like, do they go like, "Why did you kill off what's her name, Gal Gadot?"
Gal Gadot and Han.
Why? I still don't understand why they had to die. I know it had to advance the story.
If I had one thing to do in the franchise, I would not have killed them.
What was they thinking of killing them?
Justin really, really felt for dramatic purposes, it was a really important thing to do to launch us into the third act of that movie. And we had so many discussions about it. And ultimately, we went with his wishes. But as much as I love Justin, that would probably be the one thing that I would have probably changed.
I have a good mutual friend. And the theory the mutual friend has is the Asian character was Justin's proxy in the movie. And Justin knew he wasn't coming back.
I think
that was his way of like.
I think there could be some truth to that, but he likes Sung Kang so much that I don't necessarily believe that he would want to take his livelihood away from him. So I'm not sure I believe in that. I think that he just felt like from a story point and a character point that it was really, really important. I mean, and I have to say it's been a very, very collaborative experience with all the directors we worked with. We've had Rob Cohen, John Singleton. Justin, James Wan, and Gary Gray, 5 directors in 8 movies, and we've encouraged each one of them to do when they come into the series is to make it their own. Really, put your stamp on it, make it your own vibe, and just like if we feel like you're getting outside of what a Fast and Furious movie is, believe me, we'll let you know, but push the boundaries. Like, go for it. Make it different.
What's the biggest flaw in any of the movies that you wish you could just go back and fix?
It's the biggest flaw. My performance in number 1, for sure.
I'd
recast that. I would have cast you. You could have done it. That was really bad.
My personal biggest flaw is Vin being able to study the tire tracks after Letty's mysterious death, and just knowing from the tracks and putting his finger on the powder and knowing only 2 shops in LA made it. I don't think anyone's that good. I'm sorry.
It was our CSI moment.
Yeah,
they took it right out of CSI.
And it was like CSI for
actually,
cars.
you know what? Gary Scott Thompson. I'm sorry. Which was the show? The writer of the first one, Gary Scott Thompson, did one of those shows. So I'm going to chalk it up to that. Not CSI.
That's what it was.
Show.
He's got like the flashbacks.
Yeah.
He can all of a sudden you can see the crash. I loved it. I'm not complaining, but that could be.
The good news
a flaw.
is when you have characters that people love.
Yeah.
They let you skip by that.
They're going to buy everything.
As long as they love the characters.
And Vince gives great toasts, which Vin gives great toasts, which...
We have great barbecue and great toasts.
Great barbecue, great Salud mi familia, and a lot of those stuff.
You know what the regret I have is that I didn't buy the Toretto house in Boyle Heights back in the day because I would have charged a fortune.
Is that like a tourist attraction now?
Oh, it's a tourist attraction. And more importantly, just think about how many times we as a production have gone back there. I could have charged myself a lot of money.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Plus that area when we first started in 2000 was crappy, and now it's like full on hip.
I know. I was going to say probably the most unrealistic scene in the movie is that Boyle Heights is this kind of, you're on the streets, you're living it. It's not the case anymore.
Back then it was.
Back then in 2000 it was,
yes.
Yeah. I think you'd have
now
trouble.
Now it's very high-priced neighborhood.
Yeah, you'd have to go really in the outskirts of L.A. now to find.
Yeah.
or super inner city, one or the other.
But it was really fun on 7 to go back there. You know, I mean, it's just yesterday I was driving up to our set in Los Feliz on SWAT, and I drove by the corner where we had shot one of the last scenes with Paul Walker, and I just it was flashbacks. And you know, we used to be able to shoot so many movies and so much of things in Los Angeles, and I have so many memories from shooting. And now we never get to shoot in LA because there's no tax break anymore. So
not a lot of places to go. Where'd you shoot the big fight scene at the end of what's the one where Rock has the broken arm? 6.
6. We shot that in Atlanta.
Not downtown LA.
No, unfortunately.
I feel like that would have been a major news story if downtown LA had been just completely annihilated like that.
Yeah, you know, that was.
I mean, there are blocks and blocks of just complete destruction.
But that's not one of my favorite scenes. That chase through the city. That the third act there. I love the fight and stuff between Paul Walker and Tony Jaa through that building. But I wasn't crazy about the whole kind of, you know.
It's a weak spot. When I've had the arguments about what's the best Fast movie, that's what I throw at the people who say Fast 6. The climactic scene isn't quite there,
right?
In my opinion. But when Rock goes out the window in the first 20 minutes,
it's awesome.
That's like.
It's awesome.
It's just jarring. It's like, is he dead? Did they just kill him off? What happened? I mean, he's barely in Fast 6. He's got like 6 scenes.
He didn't shoot that much time in Fast 6.
Yeah, he's too famous. Because you barely get him.
I think it was the availability of what he was shooting at the same time. I can't remember. But, you know, the people that we have in these movies are in demand for a lot of different things. So it's really hard to get everybody back together. At one point we had thought, could we shoot like Fast 6 and 7 at the same time? You know, go back to back, and just with the schedules and the amount of time it takes to shoot each of these movies, and more importantly, the fact that we never would ever be able to have 2 scripts finished just made it impossible. When
did you realize that this was like a multi-billion-dollar franchise? Did you see that coming in during Fast 4, or like was it not until Fast 6?
I think it was end of Fast 4, going into Fast 5, where we started to see such an upswing, and we were starting to get we used to be like a 1.5 quadrant film, like, you know, it'd be like guys under 25 and half of girls under 25. And as the movies just kept going, we've evolved to the fact now we're a 4 quadrant movie. It's men, women, young, old. We get everybody now. It's become almost like a family experience, you know. And that's where you started to see the transition, where we became much more of a broader movie than just kind of a genre movie. I'm a huge fan of kind of B genre movies, and Roger Corman, who made a lot of the B movies back in the day, and his office is literally like 50 yards from mine, and was one of my idols. The way we got the title for Fast and Furious was we were making the first one, and it was called Red Line. It was called Street Wars. It was called Race Wars. It was all these lame titles.
Yeah.
And I remember going to a documentary on American International Pictures, which made all the Beach Party movies and all the Hells Angels movies and the Vincent Price movies. And that was a company that my family had been involved in my whole life. And I went to see this documentary on it, and I was watching it, and they were going a section over the Roger Corman movies. And I said to my dad during it, I said, God, Dad, I need a title like Roger Corman would come up with. And they started talking about a movie called Fast and Furious. And I'm like, that's the fucking title. Excuse me. But that's the title.
You can swear.
That's the title. And I remember calling Universal the next morning, and I called the head of the company, and I said, okay, I think I got the title. And he said, what is it? And I sheepishly said, The Fast and Furious. And there was just silence on the other end. And he's like, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm a real idiot. That was a lame title. It sounds great now, but then it was like The Fast and Furious. And then a day later, he calls me back, and he goes, you know what? Ever since that, I can't stop thinking about it. That's what we got to name it. I go, okay, let's go to Roger Corman, who made the title. We went to Roger Corman, and we traded him stock footage from old Universal movies for the title. And that's how we got the title.
Oh, man, he should ask for more. He should have gotten some draft picks.
It's funny. I'm going to actually go see him on Friday. But he should have definitely gotten more. But at the time, you know, now it's like, you know, they're naming military programs after it, The Fast and the Furious and stuff like this. But at the time, honestly, when I first said it, it sounded lame.
I mean, you could have just called it Fast, because that's basically what it became.
But remember, then there was another movie called Fast. I can't remember.
There was?
I think so. Faster. I think Dwayne Johnson might have actually been in it.
I barely remember that. I've seen so many action movies.
I think it was
at this
directed
point.
by like George Tillman or something like this.
Well, it's a good title.
Yeah.
But then it was weird. You did
Fast and Furious, Too Fast.
Was it The Fast and...
It was The Fast and the Furious.
The Fast and the Furious, but
then
then it was Fast and Furious.
Then it was Too Fast, Too Furious. Then it was Tokyo Drift. Then it was Fast and Furious. Then it was... I can't get them all confused now.
Fast 15 would be like Furious and Fast.
It was Fast 5, Furious 6. You know, we just...
Furious at being fast.
And I kind of...
keep going.
I wasn't sure, to be honest, I wasn't sure about the fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
At first, they wanted it to be Fate of Furious, and I was like, no, if we're going to do that, it's got to be the Fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
That I can live with.
So, going backwards quick, so did you move to Hollywood to become a producer?
No, I actually grew up in Westwood in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I had always been around the film business. My grandfather owned a lot of the movie theaters, or not a lot, but movie theaters in downtown Los Angeles. My father and his sisters were the ushers and managers of those theaters. One of the ushers at my grandfather's theaters asked him for a $5,000 loan to start a distribution company. That loan became American International Pictures, which made all the movies I talked about, the Vincent Price movies, the Hells Angels movies, the Billy Jack movies. My father and our family was one of the ones who ran the company. As a kid, I worked in the mailroom there. I worked on some of the sets of the movies. I went to UCLA undergraduate. In my junior year, I went on something called Semester at Sea, where I go around the world on a boat for school with 600 students. When I was in China in 1981, every kid in China was carrying these school bags, these canvas bags with this Chinese writing on it. I brought them back here, gave them away as presents. Next thing I know, people were asking me where they could get these. Me and my buddy started a company in 1981 making these women's purses. We had a factory in Taiwan.
Wow.
Luckily enough, did pretty well. Was able to sell the company to an investor that we had taken on. Went back to graduate school at USC to something called the Peter Stark Motion Picture Producing Program. Did that for 2 years. Got out. Tried to get a job. There were no jobs. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? It's like 1985. And I said, screw it. I'll just hang up my shingle and try and make it happen. And I just tried to make it happen. And luckily, 60 movies later, I'm sitting here.
What was your first break that got you some momentum?
I kind of look at it, there was a lot of little breaks, but I made like 3 movies in a row for HBO. Then I made...
What were the 3? I've seen every HBO movie.
I made a movie called Rat Pack.
I loved Rat Pack.
Yeah, which we nominated for...
It was really good.
One of my favorites.
It's a really hard one to pull off Sinatra and Dean Martin, all these people, because they were so indelible anyway.
Liotta,
I thought that was a good one.
Ray Liotta, Don Cheadle, Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Then I made...
By the way, that's probably on It's probably on HBO Go. I'm guessing they have
I don't know,
all their old stuff.
So long.
It's really, if anybody likes Sinatra and those people, I would go download that one. That was a good one.
Then I made a movie called Blind Justice with Armand Assante. Then I made a movie called Framed with Jeff Goldblum and Kristen Scott Thomas. Those were all for HBO. Then I made Cruel Intentions was one of my earliest films. Then I made a movie called Juice, which we introduced Tupac to the world.
Let's go back to Cruel Intentions. We just did a Reese Witherspoon podcast on our Channel 33 pod, and I was saying that was the sweet spot of, I'm going to say, from 97 to 2001. It was a little pre-internet. It was definitely before all the devices and all this stuff, when Hollywood was just flooding the market with teen movies and horror movies.
But this was
and all this stuff. And this was like The Dangerous Liaisons. It was like, wow, this is rated R. It was awesome. It's one of my favorites.
One of my favorites, too, and one of my favorite experiences. Those were all my friends, because I had made I Know What You Did Last Summer before that. And
you made that one, too?
Yeah.
That one's on cable constantly.
Yeah.
I hope you're getting paid for that one.
Luckily.
Both of them, that one and the sequel, they're on all the time.
And that's where I met Sarah, and that's where I met Ryan, and then Ryan met Reese on the audition for I Know What You Did Last Summer. We all knew each other, and then we put that together. I raised the financing independently. Me and my buddy Roger Crumble went off and made that movie completely on our own.
What happens if they switch parts, her and Sarah Michelle Gellar?
I don't know if it works.
We talked about that on the Reese podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if it works.
Because Reese is not like the goody two shoes she plays in that movie, and she could have played the other one. And Sarah Michelle Gellar's trying to go against type because people thought she's like the heroine in Buffy, and she's always kind of.
It could have worked, I guess. I never thought that. We actually just made a pilot for a Cruel Intentions TV show for NBC that didn't get picked up, but was really close, and it came out really good, really well.
It's kind of Well, first of all, great soundtrack in that movie.
Well, the song by The Verve, Bittersweet
Yeah,
Symphony.
you had like it really captures whatever late '90s music.
There's
scene
a whole
was going
story
on
in
there.
just trying
Yeah.
to get that song. The only reason we got that song is because we had tried to get it for so long, but they were in a lawsuit with the Rolling Stones over. They sued them for ripping the song.
Oh no!
And they had to pay the Rolling Stones off, and we ended up paying like $1 million to get that song. But
was worth it.
I don't know if there's any other song that could have fit that like that.
We were talking about good music / scene endings. That's another one that's probably in the conversation.
Yeah, I made Sweet Home Alabama with Reese as well.
A rom-com Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it was great. And then I made one of my favorite movies I ever made was Juice with Tupac Shakur about the kids growing up in Harlem. Yeah.
That's my favorite movie.
Oh, Tate! Tate woke up.
Yeah,
I saw Juice in the theater, just for the record.
If I could show you the picture of what I looked like when I made that movie in 91-ish, I was a full-on surfer kid with long blonde hair,
Yeah.
but I was living in Harlem making this movie, wearing my Malcolm X hat with my big, cordless phone at the time, and it was an amazing experience for like a white Jew boy from Westwood to be living in Harlem making this movie with these. Some of my favorite people of all time, Public Enemy, did the music for the movie, and it was just an amazing life experience. And I look at that movie all the time, and I'm happy, so happy with
Well,
it.
we got to talk about Pac now, because
Well,
I
he
just
was-
feel like the acting side of him is the part that gets lost when people are like, oh man, we miss Tupac and Biggie, and it's like Tupac was a really good actor.
He was the smartest, one of the smartest people I'd ever met, but probably the angriest person I'd ever met.
That doesn't surprise me.
And when this is true about how he got that role, we were auditioning every young kid for that movie, and we could not find who the role of Bishop should be. We couldn't find it, and we were getting so frustrated. We were getting near the start of production, and we just were like, we knew how pivotal that role was. And every rapper was coming in into audition, and this one guy from Digital Underground comes in, and he's just not good. But with him is his roadie, Tupac. And I remember I was so kind of down in the dumps, go to the bathroom, and Tupac catches me on the way out, and he says, I can do that shit. And I go, do what?
What?
He says, I can do that. And I said, okay, well, take the sides. Here they are, and come back in 15 minutes. And we're sitting there, and he comes back in. He comes in, he reads it, and he is Bishop. He does that scene of him at the locker, where the locker opens, and he gives that haunting speech to Omar Epps, who was playing the role of Q, where he basically tells him, you do what I say, you're going to die, kind of thing. And that was it. He got the role. And
that's unbelievable. I almost don't believe that.
100% true.
I could do that, and then he just grabs the script and disappears?
We were so desperate at the time, and he was incredible in the movie. He was incredible in that movie.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
And he had so much soul to himself. I think he wanted to be this kind of tough gang element guy, but in reality, he was a smart guy who just couldn't control his temper, and ultimately it got him. I mean, I admired him. I really loved him, and I remember saying to him, "Dude, if you don't come down, you're going to get yourself killed." I was in Vegas at the fight when he was killed or he was shot, and then I was at his funeral in Atlanta. It was such a sad thing to see such a guy who was so talented go down like that.
Did he ever get mad at you?
Probably.
You blocked it out of your mind, probably.
Probably. I don't know. It's funny when you catch some of these stars on their on the rise up. They still kind of remember you in a different way. Like I was always kind of the boss to him.
Yeah.
So it never came back. I had a very good relationship with him, and he heard my advice. Doesn't mean that he took it, but he definitely heard what I was saying.
So it was all baby steps that led to the Fast franchise.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of successes.
And there was I Am Legend, there was Click, there was SWAT, there was Triple A. There was a lot of movies along the way that all felt like gigantic steps at the time, but when I look back, they were all little steps leading me to be able to do something like this.
How many people are still in Fast 8 that were there in Fast 1?
Up until Fast 7, it was me and the costume designer, and she couldn't do 8, so I'm the only person who's been involved with all 8 movies.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So from Fast 1, Vin's obviously there.
Yes.
But I mean, he took a couple breaks.
But then he wasn't in 2. Right.
And it was anyone else from? And I guess Michelle Rodriguez. She went away and came back.
Paul was in all except
Paul was in the first 7. He was not in 3. Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, it's really interesting, but that's so it's a big part of my life, obviously.
So we have Outer Space is left.
No, we're not going to. I did Passengers this year. That took my care of my Outer Space movie. So I'm done with space now.
Passengers, was that
Jennifer Lawrence, Chris Pratt.
No, I remember, but I mean, it was critically panned.
Yeah, it was.
Did it do well though?
We did throw over $300 million worldwide on that movie.
So how do you justify that if people don't seem to like the movie that much, but it does well?
Because that's what happened was. Then that was a very valuable lesson to me. I loved that movie. I loved it. It was one of my favorite experiences making a movie. I love Chris Pratt. I love Jennifer Lawrence. I loved the director. I thought the script was one of the best scripts I had ever read. And there was a weird thing that happened. We had, done numerous test screenings on that movie that were very, very encouraging to us. And we had, arguably 2 of the biggest stars in the world between Jennifer and Chris Pratt. And everything was looking great. And around 10 days before that movie came out, the first review came out. And a review came out where the reviewer said that we were justifying date rape, that we were, and I was like, what? And I thought back to all the screenings that we had, and nobody had ever thought that. But it was weird. One guy said that, and a lot of media picked up on that, and it became the mantra that the film kind of carried. And I thought it was a really unfair thing because I think it's a beautiful film that I couldn't be more proud of. And I love the movie. But it was weird how the media sometimes that can happen to a movie.
It seems like they didn't like it immediately. And then that just became what held.
Yeah, but it was
I didn't follow it that closely, but that was my perception of it.
What was interesting is that our audience reaction and our our cinema score from people who actually saw the movie was really good. So it was a hard one because I really thought it did do very good business, but I thought it was going to do excellent business, and I thought that was actually a movie that did have a chance to be rewarded with quite a few rewards. We got a bunch of technical awards, but I really thought there was going to be more to it. So it just shows you. In the movie business, it doesn't matter how great the experience of making the movie is or how bad the experience is. One doesn't guarantee success and one doesn't guarantee failure. You could have the worst experience ever making a movie and it can be a huge success, and it could be the other way around as well.
What's the success rate of those test cards? I went through it once because I was one of the producers on $1 Million Arm. And the scores for it were phenomenal, and they were like, "This is the best Disney sport," and then it was didn't do that well.
I think that there are 2 things. One tells you if you can get people into the movie theaters and they see the movie, that's what that test score represents. But there's a whole other thing is the movie marketable? Can you get people to show up to the movie theater? And that's 2 very different things.
Okay, so if the test card says to you,
I look at 2 things.
You're probably not getting people to the movie theater, then what do you do?
Well, I look at 2 different things. I look at test scores of the screenings. That's one. And then I look at test scores of our marketing materials, because when we make trailers and we make commercials, we test those, and we're able to tell whether those materials are working enough to bring people to the theaters.
Did you ever get fooled by the wrong results with a movie?
Yeah, I don't think they're exact, and I don't take anything verbatim. But I try and take the general comments to try and understand the general things that are people saying, the macro. The way I look at my job as the producer is I really, as much as I'm involved with the micro of movies, I really try and keep a macro perspective of the movies. I try and keep kind of an 800-foot perspective of the movies and make sure that nobody's getting lost in the weeds, because ultimately, you're spending 90% of your marketing dollars the last 10 days before a movie comes out, and you're trying to get people into a movie based on, most of the time, a 30-second spot. Are you able to crystallize what that message is and make it interesting enough that you're going to get people to get off the couch, drive somewhere, spend money to go see your movie?
I don't think that we'll ever figure it out, especially now.
That's the hardest thing about the movie business.
It just seems like it's getting more and more confusing. And then you look at the Oscars, and I never in a million years would I have thought La La Land was going to make like $400 million. Well, I see something like that, and I'm like, there's just no way we're ever going to figure this out.
The thing I think about La La Land is that I think it was different. It was unique and it was original.
But there's been a lot of different original movies, not one that crossed over like that. Well, you couldn't have expected that.
I didn't expect that it was going to do. I don't know if it did 400 million, but I don't know what
it was over 300.
Yeah, I don't know what it did very well. I didn't think it was going to do that much, but once that just got that critical thing going, it just kept going and going and going. I mean, even if you look at a little movie like Moonlight, which wins, who would have ever thought that'd do $30 million? I mean, it's such a tiny little personal story. So, but once you get into that bubble of the machine of the, the critics and the awards and all that stuff working behind you, it definitely helps.
Well, so you're at 8. I don't think anyone could have seen 8 Fast movies. What were there, 5 diehards?
I think
this has to be the non-James Bond record, right?
Somebody told me that for a movie non-based on an IP, not based on a comic book or a play or something that
just an original script,
original idea that we have, that this is the most. Yeah, because there's been I don't know how many Harry Potters, but that's based on a book. James Bond was based on a book. There's all source material for those things that had a popularity to those properties before they became movies.
And what's interesting is I just don't imagine this movie going without Vin Diesel. And so, James Bond, there were other, they had 7 James Bonds, and James Bond was kind of character. Nobody else could be Dom Toretto.
True.
And I can't imagine anybody else being the anchor of the thing. So it kind of goes on for as long as he wants it to go.
Yeah, or you create a universe where there's becomes spin-off of different movies with individual characters is something that's
almost like a comic book. Yeah,
it's a possibility. But we're determined right now, to really concentrate on.
So Tyrese is getting a spin-off, is what you're trying to tell us.
If you ask him, he is.
Neil, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I love the franchise. Keep them coming.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Thanks so much to Joe House. Thanks to Neil Moritz. Thanks to Simply Safe. In the past, you couldn't order home security online, but now with Simply Safe Home Security, it's a snap to do it. They make it easier than ever to protect your home and family. It takes less than an hour to set up your system and protect your home even better. No long-term contracts. 24/7 professional protection service for just $15 a month. Go to simplysafebs.com. Protect your home. Get 10% off. That's Simply Safe with 2 I's. BS.com. And thanks to the Ringer NBA show, you can find me there later this week breaking down the playoffs with Chris Vernon. Download or subscribe as soon as you can because it's going to happen. We're going to break some stuff down. I will give you one gambling tip that will win you money on one of those round 1 series. Finally, don't forget about the Ringer MLB show only on TuneIn. Playing for free right now for the month of April. And if you go to tunein.com/ringer, you get a free 60-day trial of TuneIn Premium. And you can listen to every live MLB game because you should be doing that because it's baseball season. We have one more podcast coming up later in the week. And again, I am on the Ringer NBA show if you want to hear me talk about hoops. Until then.